Ade Dewey Dumbula. Give Don the power, I beg of you, to create Season 4 of Chucky and make it good! What's going on, everyone, and welcome to my review of Season 3 of Chucky. So in Season 3 of Chucky, Chucky gets into the hands of one of the children of America's first family and continues to cause mayhem, but this time it's in the White House. Now our trio of leads, Devin, Jake and Lexi, have to try and access the White House, not only to stop Chucky from doing mass destruction to the country, but also to find Lexi's little sister, Caroline. Now before we talk about Season 3, I will say that overall I did enjoy it. I wanted to love it. I just ended up liking it. And the reason I'm telling you this now is because there are just some things that I can't talk about without going into spoilers. So apologies that if you haven't seen all of Season 3 that I'm going to be talking about what happens. But all I'll say is just watch it, but very tentatively. Just temper your expectations and you'll probably have a good time. Spoiler warning. It's on the screen right now, so no complaints. No one's going to be whinging to me about spoilers, okay? If you want to hear my full thoughts, fuck off and watch Season 3 and come back. So the first positive for Season 3 that I have is I really like the setting. I like the fact that it takes place in the White House. I think they do a great job at recreating what I would imagine it would look like inside the White House. I think it's a very unique location. I'm glad that they changed it up a bit and give it more of a nationwide scale of America, where it's like, you know, people could be more in danger now because what is Chucky gonna do? Season 3 of Chucky delivers on the carnage. When you get it, it is damn good. My favourite one has to be the chandelier kill in the Halloween party episode that is just bonkers. It's just blood and guts and eyeballs everywhere. Most of it's practical. It looks awesome. You also have the president, played by Devin Sawa, who gets his eyes ripped out, which is just beyond shocking and insane. Also, you have Evelyn as well, the cook, which is just one of the most disgusting kills that I've seen, especially in this franchise. Now, there's plenty more, but those ones are a few of the standouts, and I commend them for going balls to the walls with the gore in this season. I think the cast is all really good. I really do enjoy the time spent with the trio of leads of Devin, Jake and Lexi. I think Lexi's definitely the most interesting. She's always been the most interesting, honest to God, because like Season 2, it was just kind of Jake and Devin rekindling their relationship. And again, they don't really have enough to do here, but I enjoy being in their presence. And especially Zachary Arthur in the final episode of this. He gets possessed by Chucky. He does brilliantly. He nails the voice of Brad Dourif very well, to the point that I was like, have they merged his voice together? Which I don't believe they did. I think it was all just Zachary Arthur's voice, but he did great. It was great seeing another side of him. Once again, Devin Sawa is excellent. I think that him playing multiple characters really works in the show's favour. He's very, very different. Like, with the different characters he has to play. For example, he has to play the president and the president's body double. And he has to play them both dressed the same, both look the same, both have the same hair. He has to play almost like opposites of each other. And he does a very good job. And Brad Dourif and Chucky, just both of them synonymously are amazing. Again, when have they not been? But I really like what Brad Dourif was doing here, where you actually got to see the ghost of Charles Lee Ray. You got to see him talking like Chucky in person, which was really, really cool. There were some other awesome parts that they did where they had the ghost of Charles Lee Ray talking to a younger version of Charles Lee Ray played by Fiona Dourif, kind of like she did in the first season. That was really, really cool to see. And also, just Brad Dourif having to do some more of his different voices like he did within Season 2. For example, the good Chucky or buff Chucky, he had to regain those voices again for certain portions here. And he hasn't lost it. At 74, I believe he might be. He's doing extremely well. Now, season 3 is more straightforward than season 2. It's not as straightforward as I would like it to be, but it is a lot simpler. So it's a lot easier to take. It's a lot more palatable. It's a step up from season 2, absolutely. I'm glad that they toned it down a little bit. We'll get into that later, but they toned it down a bit. I obviously understand the need to constantly push boundaries and create new ideas and roll with them, and I think that in season 3, specifically the ghost story, where it kind of becomes a bit of like an insidious poltergeist kind of thing, I think that ends up working really, really well, specifically in the last episode. It's a lot more unique than what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting it to go in the direction that it did, with Jake ending up going into the further, basically, like from Insidious, where he rekindles his relationship with his father, again played by Devon Sawa, which was really great. I loved that. I think it makes enough sense to have the ghost of Chucky's victims in the White House trying to warn the family. I kind of like that, almost a bit of a Black Phone kind of feel. I really do think that this creative step that they took mostly paid off. The one thing from season 2 that I actually enjoyed that carried over into season 3 worked well here. I thought that the old Chucky storyline and him being plagued by Christian magic was really funny. I really liked it. I think it was actually, it raised the stakes a bit, to the point that this franchise has gotten so wacky and crazy, to the point that you could literally have Godzilla Chucky and you would just be like, okay, well, I suppose this is what the franchise is doing now, and you wouldn't even question it because it's so silly. This old Chucky thing actually made it feel like it had stakes again. You were like, oh, this could be the end of Chucky. This is actually scary. I mean, like, you know, Brad Durr is getting on. He announced his retirement from acting, aside from Chucky, so he could be on the way out, and I felt it. I was like, yeah, no, this is actually intense and keeping me engaged. And finally, I like the bit of commentary that we got on conspiracy theories in American politics, where the American president has a body double and he gets killed, and they're all hiding it from the public, and they're using this other body double as like a stand-in for him to try and keep people at peace. It kind of has a bit of something to say about this kind of stupid commentary that Joe Biden is cloned and stuff like that. Like, I thought it was funny that they sprinkled a little bit in there, to the point that it was like you could kind of laugh at it and laugh at the silliness of it. But unfortunately, I wish that I could keep talking about how much I loved this season and how it just put everything back on track after the complete clusterfuck that was season 2. I just can't. I'm sorry, but this season just barely scrapes into a thumbs up review for me. And we'll discuss that now. And firstly, it is the continuity of season 2. I don't like, aside from old Chucky, I don't like the idea of good Chucky being a part of this season, which doesn't make sense, because good Chucky, his brainwashing in season 2 disappeared, faded away when he killed Nadine. He became evil again. But then you go into this season and they find good Chucky again, and all of a sudden he's good, and Jake wants him to kill himself for some reason, which doesn't... I just don't get it. Like, it's just really weird and stuff that they introduced, and then all of a sudden, oh, that's gone again. Like, they just got rid of it. This show has a really annoying habit of considering new ideas and then just completely getting rid of them. Sometimes even within episodes. Like, for example, in this series, we have the character of Warren Price, played by Gil Bellows. And there's some kind of flirtation / tension between him and the First Lady. And they switch on and off with that. And then he gets to the point that he ends up killing some of the other security guards. And then he just gets burnt to a crisp. And you never know anything about him. You never learn what his goal was, what his deal was with the First Lady, who he was siding with. It was just kind of like he just kept jumping backwards and forwards. They tried to add another character just there for tension, and they just didn't pay it off at all. They just killed him instead. And again, as much as I love the idea of Jake being possessed by Chucky, and I think it's a really entertaining sequence, he's only possessed for like 10 minutes before they transfer Chucky into an actual Chucky doll and Jake goes back to normal. It's like, well, there kind of goes the potential for season 4. That could have been really interesting, but they didn't have the balls to just go and stick with that idea. They're just like, oh, here's an idea, what if we do it? But then we'll just pull our punches at the last second. It's just like, well, why don't you just commit to something instead of just going, like, you know, just dipping your toes in 10 different ideas? Why don't you commit to one idea instead? Like, that would be much more interesting. And even again, to prove my point even more with this whole just ditching ideas and concepts, season 2, I know we're talking about season 3, but season 2, like, the truck full of Chuckies, you had 72 different Chuckies, and then they literally just drove that idea off a cliff. This season also tries to do far too much as well. I know I said earlier about them simplifying it and smoothing the road out a little bit, but when I said they smoothed it out a little bit, I really did just mean a little bit, because they introduce a whole lot of more voodoo elements and hypnotism stuff, especially with Jennifer Tilly in prison, and that subtle story just didn't work for me at all. But the whole idea of her hypnotizing and brainwashing these prison guards, and then her performing voodoo with these little, like, bamboo or straw dolls or whatever, it's just like, and as much as I appreciate the attempt, I don't like actually Chucky making deals with Damballa. I think that was just a little too much. Again, it's just too much, and they don't really commit to it. Again, it's kind of just like, they're like, you have Chucky actually facing Damballa. He's like, you have to complete my bidding or you're going to hell. And Chucky's just like, give me one more chance. And then he just does. And then that's never talked about again. As I hinted at earlier, the whole Jennifer Tilly / Tiffany storyline just doesn't work for me. And the pacing does it no favors either. The pacing in this season in particular is pretty dreadful. You will go, like, sometimes 2 episodes even, where you never hear a peep from Tiffany. And then all of a sudden you go back to it. But the problem is because you're focusing on all this other shit that's happening, this ghost stuff, this deals with Damballa and stuff. So when you get back to Tiffany, you've kind of lost track of what's going on. It's almost as though they forgot to put her in some episodes. The whole balancing all these different storylines out was really poorly done, in my opinion. And as I said, it's just, she's doing too much. Like, I love Tiffany. I think in Bride of Chucky, she's an amazing character. I liked her in Cult, and she was okay in Seed, but since season 2, she's just become too much for me. Where it's just like, oh, God, you don't have to dial it up to 11. You can, you know, put her up to 8 or 9, but, like, this is just too much. And especially when they're not fully committing to her story. They're just kind of leaving her in the corner, and then eventually we'll come back to her. It's just like, there is a serious lack of Andy and Kyle, which kind of contradicts my points about this season doing too much. But I would rather they cut out some of the story elements with Jennifer Tilly and the hypnotism, like put her in the back seat for this this season, maybe, just because season 2 was too much. Just put her in jail, that's fine, but, like, leave this hypnotism and voodoo shit and prison break stuff. It's just like, get rid of that and maybe bring Andy and Kyle back into this, because it's just kind of disappointing when the stars of the show just aren't there. Now, I'm hoping that they play a big part in season 4, but just knowing the way this franchise, or this series, the television show is gone, it's just like, well, maybe they're just going to be scrapped entirely. Maybe they're just going to be doing something new, which is a shame because I love those characters. And before I get to my last negative, I would like to say that the writer's strike delaying this season didn't do it any favors at all either. Unfortunately, it kind of just made it to the point where you started watching the second half of season 3 and you kind of had to catch yourself back up again. And it's just like, there's so much happening that it's hard to catch yourself up on. So, I'd just like to say that. But now for my final negative. I actually could not believe that this happened in the show. So you get to the last 10 minutes of the last episode. And they rock up at John Waters' house, who is just completely fucking bonkers, and they find Caroline, and she's fucked in the head, so the whole search for Caroline was... They found her, but for nothing, basically. Like this whole fucking show. And then they find John Waters, the creator of the Good Guy doll, and then he opens up these curtains to something, and it shows the kids, Devin, Jake, and Lexi, looking at it going... And then they cut to a commercial break, and then they cut back. I shit you not, Devin, Jake, and Lexi have been turned into marionettes. And they have their CGI'd face on these little wooden stick figure things, just in this thing going, help, help, Nika, look behind you, look behind you. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe that they went there. I think that is absolutely terrible. So you're just saying to me that they were looking, they looked at the puppet show, and then all of a sudden they performed some ritual on all three of the kids? This old man and this young girl and the Chucky doll performed this ritual on all three of the kids without them fighting back at all, and it just happened instantly. They were just complicit in being turned into fucking puppets? And I've come to really like these characters. I enjoy them. And if season 4, which I'm not putting it past season 4 to just never mention these characters again, because they drive off at the end. If season 4 doesn't deliver, if it doesn't do something with this concept, then it's just going to be all for naught. Because again, this franchise has no stakes. It could be the first 5 minutes of next season that all of a sudden they're back into people again. Whether that happens or whether they stay in dolls, I don't like it. I think it's absolutely terrible. I think it's stupid beyond this franchise's capabilities. And also with the ending. Why are Chucky and Tiffany back in love again? Was it not at the end of season 2 that they basically absolutely hated each other and they're out for blood, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, just never mind. They forgot all about it. I understand that they've had a volatile relationship where it's on and off, but it's just like to the point that it's just like, I can't follow what you guys are doing. You're just... I can't get behind you, because it's just going to be like, 1 minute you're going to be all lovey-dovey, next minute you're going to try and kill each other. And I thought the last time that they actually saw each other in person, they fucking hated each other, with Chucky coming out of the Bell doll. It's just like, guys, can you make an idea and stick to it? Overall, I don't know. I'm very mixed on this. I wish that I loved it more. I wish that I loved the new directions more. I did definitely enjoy watching it. I would say that my overall experience was mixed to positive. But I just don't know what to expect. I don't know what's going on. It's just draining to the point that it's just like, I'm watching it and I'm like, oh my god. Like, is this really what we're doing? And also, in fact, I'd say the best horror channel on YouTube at the moment is Cody Leach's horror channel. And in his review for season 3, which you should absolutely check out because it kind of, my thoughts just mirror his in more ways than they don't, he mentions that he's copped a bit of flack from some people behind the production of this TV show. Not all of them, but there's about 2 people, and maybe 3, that haven't responded well to his negative reception of the show. And I would just like to say, if you are going to turn Chucky into Marlon Brando from Apocalypse Now, and you don't expect any backlash from it, and when you do get backlash, you lash out again, that's pretty low. That's pretty poor. So I don't want to let that hinder my overall feelings towards this show, because I absolutely love Chucky, and I really, really wish that I loved season 3, but with the way it's been going, season 4 literally could range from the biggest pile of shit in the franchise, like worse than Seed of Chucky, to maybe the best thing the franchise has ever done. And it could also land anywhere in between. There is just no telling. So overall, I would say that season 3 of Chucky is worth a watch. But again, very tentatively. So yeah, that's my review of Chucky season 3. I'll do a ranking. I wish it didn't end on a sour note, but it didn't end on a sour note. It's just like, I'm recommending it. What can I say? I gave it a positive review in the end, but there was so much about it that bugged me. Anyway, I'll see you all later. Bye.